Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Wild Wasteland. As always, I'm your host, Dean Maldonado, and with me is my fantastic cohort, Michael Johnson.
Cohort?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, how's it going? Crazy shit going on in the world today. I don't know. What were we talking about?
This is your week, Michael.
Oh, man, this is awful. This is going to be really bad. Today, I want to talk about this series of suicides in the Bridgend area of Wales.
Okay, hold on. Let's take a pause for a second.
Yeah.
So we finally allow you to host 1 week of this show.
Yeah.
And write your own script.
Yeah.
And you came up with...
we made the show together. Like, you're not allowing me to do anything.
You came up with suicides in a random fucking part of... Where did you say? Wales?
Yeah, Wales, yeah. There's a
Can you point out Wales on a map to me?
No, it's South Wales. It's South Wales.
I know, but can you point out where Wales is on a map to me?
First of all, I know where they are. Come on, we all know where whales are.
I know they migrate
in the water. It's you got to look at those old maps.
All right. You know what, Michael? You know
where
what?
They have like the uncharted area, and they got like the whales.
Listen, I'm down for anything. Let's talk about some suicide. All right.
Right on. Hey, before we get started, can you read the top line? Before
starting this episode, we will be warning you. This is an intense episode for some people. And if you're feeling like harming yourself in any way, please contact Suicide Prevention Hotline. The number is 1-800-273-8255 or visit suicidepreventionlifeline.org to chat with someone 24 hours. This is an issue. You should not take your life.
Yeah, don't do it. It's
seriously,
it's really awful. You're gonna upset everybody in your life, and
at the end of the day,
you don't gain anything.
No, you don't even see if you had an impact.
I like that guy. Do you know about that guy that faked his death and attended his funeral and nobody showed up?
Oh, Josie Smollett?
Oh, boom, boom. Wait, did he do that now?
No, he just pretended to get lynched and bleached.
Oh, wow. This is getting intense.
Okay, we're talking about suicide here, man.
Lynching and bleaching
is probably a little bit more light and fluffy than suicide.
That's true. I guess only by not much.
Yeah, really by a hair.
Like a light contrast.
Maybe I should rephrase as conceptualized and faked lynching and bleaching is like puppies and kittens compared to this.
Yeah, we can. No one was actually hurt except for a man's career, and you know what, he did it to himself. So
entirely from start to finish.
We can laugh
the entire thing to himself.
So
it's like writing a self-help book about how to trash your career and then following it to a letter. So tell me about this place. So what's it called? Bridgend?
Well, it's the county. It's,
okay.
It happens over a few villages between the. So we're looking into it, and there's a lot of reports on it. There's like a few news reports.
Okay.
Because it's not very widely known, and even Wikipedia is kind of wrong in this aspect. They say that it takes place between 2007 to 2009. Okay. Widely reported that it happens from January 2007 to December 2008. 26 suicides.
Wow.
All from hanging. They all occurred from hanging. That's what they mainly report. But we'll learn more about the what the real numbers are later.
Okay.
It's even more devastating than that.
Yeah.
The real tragic thing here is that the majority of people that did it between the age of 13 and 17.
So you're thinking there might have been some kind of like a suicide pact?
That's what a lot of people think. We'll get to it later. But again, suicide is a terrible thing.
Yeah.
Just have to keep saying that.
Listen, I mean, we're going to say at the beginning and the end. I'm not going to be here, kicking suicide in the dick the entire episode, okay?
Well, suicide is a dick. Well, what an asshole.
I would say the people who enact suicide.
Yeah. Well,
especially assisted. Those angels of death.
Yeah, the angel of death from Italy. 200 people he murdered.
And he was from Germany. And he murdered over 400.
There's 3 of them. Yeah, there's also a woman.
There's a couple. There's a woman.
There's a woman from Spain.
And there's a couple in the U.S.
Yeah.
But
Dr.
continue. So 2007 to 2008, 26 suicides.
All by hanging. Or asphyxiation.
Hanged to death.
This was a huge media storm when it happened.
I'm sure, dude. Are you kidding me? You have a fucking You have over 24 deaths in
in the span of like a year.
in 2 calendar years.
Well, the 26 was actually in one calendar year.
Holy hell.
And like the media just flew in, and one parent said, one parent was quoted as saying, glamorizing ways to taking one's life to young people. Essentially saying, like, this is what they're doing. They're glamorizing this. They're making the kids want to do it.
So
is their belief.
Okay, so they're saying that basically they've been influenced by people to find this kind of way of killing yourself as a cool thing to do, and now they're just kind of following a fad.
Yeah, and there's actually some there's some truth to that too.
Okay.
After Marilyn Monroe died, the months after her suicide in 1962, there was an additional 303 suicides, an increase of 12% than the usual. After Robin Williams committed suicide, 10% rise in the number of suicides in the United States. In a 5 months that followed, the increase was especially large among 30 to 44-year-olds.
So people who grew up with him their entire life.
Well, we're the same age as him, yeah.
Yeah.
Whose suicide rate almost 13%.
Oh, my
increased. God. Even crazier, 32.3% spike in the number of suicides of suffocation, which is how he died. Huge spike there. And generally, however, it's highly publicized stories don't necessarily increase because they have done studies throughout the years. There's only a 2.31% increase from highly publicized suicides.
So saying that publicizing the suicides increases the suicides is the same kind of thing as saying that smoking weed gives you schizophrenia. Because the fact that more people smoke weed and not more people have developed schizophrenia kind of proves that point is moot.
Well, we don't have the numbers yet about the schizophrenia, but I'm just saying that there's a grain of truth in it.
But what you're saying is that it's not accurate to say that the one it's
not 100% accurate.
It's not.
But
it's not the exact causation.
Yeah,
it's just something.
It's just maybe it's just a coincidence.
Okay.
It's hard to say because not everyone leaves a note. Most people do,
of course.
and even in their note, they're probably not going to say, "Well, Robin Williams died, so I'm going to just."
Yeah, I'm going to go meet Robin in heaven.
The point that you're trying to make here is the next point. When Kurt Cobain died, there was no significant increase in suicide, and he is probably the most significant person to commit suicide with the younger audience.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, he also totally got his head shot off by someone else and they put the gun in his hand.
Well, we know that now, but there's the two things that the news did at the time. They did not tell you how he committed suicide.
Okay.
They just said that he died. And the other thing, like we did at the beginning of this episode, you introduced every time they talked about it, they always introduced a suicide prevention message to it. And that's why we did this, starting this one off with that kind of message. Because
you don't want to be
a Jake Paul.
You don't want to inadvertently influence people to kill themselves by talking about it too much.
Fair enough. That's what we're going to do an hour of
just,
talking about
just
suicide.
So our viewers and listeners know, this place in South Wales, this Bridgend County Borough, they had 26 people die of remarkably similar suicides in one calendar year, right?
Yeah.
The population of that area
at the time was 110,000.
Yeah, at this point it's only 143,000. So it's a really small county.
Yeah. Well, we're actually going to get to that.
Okay. Continue, please. I'll stop interjecting with random facts that don't mean anything.
No, it's all right.
Hey,
I already wrote down the facts.
All right, then tell the facts.
Chime in with jokes like I do, or say mm-hmm. Yeah, so there is that grain of truth that there is an influence, like normalizing it or glamorizing it. There is that kind of thing, but it's hard to say. There's the truth is still out because humans, we're not robots. One thing doesn't necessarily mean that the other thing will happen.
Yeah, we are complex beings, for the more or less.
But the interesting thing about that, the 10 years before the chaos that ensued with all these kids killing themselves, you know how many people killed themselves on average?
3.
Yeah, three men on average.
Wait, really?
Yeah, killed themselves.
Oh my God, I was just guessing. I mean, I know that. Well, because Wales, Norway, and Sweden and Finland are always listed in like the top 10 happiest countries in the world.
Yeah.
So
Wales not that happy.
No, Wales,
it's part of England, and it's really sad.
Yeah.
And don't kill yourself, but definitely get out of your small shitty town if you feel like
You're stuck in a small shitty town.
Don't feel stuck. There's the whole world. You got the internet.
Yeah, you literally can just pack up your one briefcase full of things and leave.
Yeah, you don't have to be a farmer.
And you better do it before Brexit.
Yeah. Well, then they just call you back. You can't just go into another country. They'll be like, okay, just
stay here.
Like, you know how hard it is to move to Germany?
From where?
From America.
Oh, yeah, but do you know how hard it is to move to Germany from any other country in the EU?
No, you could just drive there. But,
yeah, but like, I mean, to like full-time move there.
No, you can just go there.
Do you know how hard it is?
You can just go there, right?
Yeah, it's fucking simple.
Yeah, I know.
And now, as soon as they're out of the EU, it's going to be as hard as it is for Americans to.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to tell you. Yeah.
Hey, man, we're on the same team here.
I don't know.
USA,
Are we?
USA, USA.
All right. Okay. In the years past this whole chaos thing,
okay,
the average suicide is 2 people.
Really? So suicides went down besides that 1 year of a massive spike.
Well, we'll get to how many years it actually is because, again, the reportings are kind of false on this.
So you're just giving me a stream of bullshit right now to then correct all this stuff in like 30 minutes.
Well, it actually gets interesting because
okay, well, let's get it interesting.
Okay, so who are the kids, right? I
sure.
know what you're asking.
I'm wondering.
September 2006, young man Dale Kroll, he says goodbye to his mother and leaves to visit his friends in the next town over. He's visiting his friend David Dilling. There's a lot of weird names in here.
Oh yeah, they're terribly odd language.
But sadly, he never arrives. No one is particularly concerned though, because even though that he's 18,
mm-hmm.
He's doing drugs, he's drinking,
sure,
hanging out with friends. But a few weeks later, it's starting to get serious, right? So it isn't for several months until they find the body.
Ooh.
In an abandoned funfair warehouse in Porthcawl.
Okay.
There's going to be some editing in this one.
In Porthcawl?
Porthcawl.
Nice.
David said that the pair would frequent this area and hang out there overnight, drinking, having a good time.
Yeah, as you do in abandoned fucking...
Do you not go to abandoned properties to hang out and drink when you're 18?
No, we more broke into construction sites to smoke weed on the roof.
See, that's kind of like the same thing.
Kind of, yeah.
They don't have construction here.
That's like actively abandoned.
This is Wales.
That's true.
They haven't built anything since 1896.
Not a single thing has been built in Wales.
They just keep drumming up Wales.
No homes, no roads.
Listen.
Okay.
The body was badly decomposed. It took the coroner a while to find out that how the man died. He died of hanging. Trace amounts of drugs were found in his hair, and the verdict was suicide was recorded.
Okay.
That day. Bang. Spot on. Because who wants to investigate anything? Sadly, this is just the first of many.
Okay.
There's a lot coming.
Yeah, keep going. I'm interested. I'm hooked.
6 weeks after the body of Dale was found, David's body, his friend, was hanging outside of of Pyle Church. He was found by a man walking his dog in the early morning.
So, Dale Kroll,
yeah,
killed himself in the funfair warehouse.
Yeah,
and then his friend David Dilling killed himself 6 weeks later.
Yeah.
Wow.
His friend that we're talking about.
Okay.
Again, I didn't mention this, but on the Wikipedia page and everything else, the police claim that there's no connection with any of the deaths.
Sure. Besides the fact that they knew each other intimately.
Well, you'll see. We'll see how well everyone knows each other in this story. But the investigation was short and ruled to be nothing unexpected. Same as Dale, he had a reputation to the police being someone that drank heavily and did drugs. His father said that he never got over the death of his friend Dale.
And so he killed himself in the same way Dale killed himself.
Yeah.
Okay.
2 days before the date of David's funeral, tragedy struck again. Thomas Davies went to the same church, and on an adjacent tree to one of David's that David used, he too hung himself.
Wow. Hashtag he too.
Remember, the police claim that there is no connection.
Okay.
Thomas was a friend of Dale and David's,
mm-hmm.
and the third death just continued to build this dour sense in the community. In the police's defense, they claim that they have looked heavily into the link and they said that there's nothing obvious to be found. Like in so many tragedies, the police seem to have just blow things over and just hope that this kind of situation just kind of blows over.
Well, yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, what are they going to do? Because
investigate it.
What more is there to investigate? They found the first body.
So
they found out how he died.
So
they found the second body.
Yeah.
They figured out how he died, and they found the third body and was like, "Fuck, stop doing this. Maybe if we don't say anything, everyone will just calm down and stop hanging themselves."
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. It's just weird that in 6 weeks, there's 3 men that died.
Mm-hmm.
That's a whole year's worth of death and suicide
in a month and a half. Yeah.
Yeah. So the police are hoping that the whole thing blows over.
It's like, we hit our quota.
Sadly, it won't.
Oh no.
Over the next year, 14 more young men would take their lives by the way of hanging. And remember, the average of the decade before was 3 men a year.
Mm-hmm.
For all extensive purposes, these were boys. They were all young. Yeah, they were all young boys. They weren't all as blatantly similar. The first three location, methods, relationships, they were all different. It's just like the kids lost their mind. But there were strange common factors that were uncommon to most suicides that do link them.
Okay.
All were commonly
they were unexpected.
They're completely unexpected.
I mean, how the hell can you expect?
And most didn't have a note.
Oh.
Or explanation at all. So they just, like, one day you just decide to kill yourself.
And not tell anyone why.
Yeah, never leave a note or anything. Isn't that odd? Because most suicides have a note.
That is odd. Most people do write a note. And actually, there was a report I think it was about 7 days ago, about the suicide prevention hotline.
Yeah.
Because there was a person who wrote their suicide note, and after writing the note and reading over the note, they realized they want to live.
Oh, that's nice.
And so they called the suicide hotline and they got help. But I mean,
there's always hope.
But that's the thing, is that, like, you are transcribing what should be your final sentiment to the world, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so to go and not write anything, it's kind of fishy.
Yeah, that is a bit odd. You know what else? Crazy thing about the suicide prevention hotline? Ted Bundy worked for one.
Huh.
For like the majority of his murders.
Wow.
So there's that.
Yeah, and Einstein worked at the patent office before he started busting out patents like it was his job.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
Mm-hmm.
Almost like
he's a thieving German.
Yeah.
All right, let's keep going. I want to hear more about these.
Okay.
I'm actually really gripped because right now I've been binge watching this. It's an older show. It's called Hannibal.
Mm-hmm.
It's about it's based off the characters of the Red Dragon book.
Yeah.
And it's about like Hannibal doing his thing. And oh my god, dude, this reminds me of the episode in season 2. They found a human totem pole of 17 bodies on a beach. And they figured out that this one man had been killing people over years and years and years and years. And he did it in different ways to make it look like either an accident or a suicide so that no one would continue investigating.
Yeah.
And he ended up killing like 17 people and then made a totem pole out of their bodies and then allowed the police to find him because he was like an old fuck.
Yeah.
But that's kind of what this is seeming like. It looks
that's one of the
like,
theories to this, yeah. That they believe that there's a serial killer running around just hanging up kids. And it'll sound something like that.
It kind of sounds like it already.
Yeah, well, not only that there's no notes, most were vocally critical about outspoken about what was going on in the community with all these people hanging themselves. They're like, what an idiot. Why are they hanging themselves? And then they
hung themselves?
And they just hung themselves?
Actually, it's hanged.
Hanging? All the men died with their hands untied and most of their legs or knees touched the ground.
Wait. They died with their knees and feet touching the ground?
Yeah.
So that means that somebody or something snapped their neck.
Yeah, like they jumped and they snapped their neck.
But even if you snap your neck and you can touch the ground, it's not going to asphyxiate you in the way that would kill you from being hanged.
Or maybe they just jumped up. It's hard to speculate on what exactly they did, but it's just weird shit going on.
That's very odd.
And the majority of them are like this. In August 2007, Zachary Barnes was found by his parents hanging in their backyard. hanged by his own shirt.
Wow.
That was just on the wash line. He was out drinking the night before with friends in the park and had a high blood alcohol content. There was no indication that he had any suicidal tendencies, so suicide couldn't be recorded that instant.
So what did they record it as?
Mystery.
Accidental death?
Yeah, like he took his own shirt and he hung himself up with the clothesline because he was really fucked up the night before.
Mm-hmm.
He just decided to kill himself on the way home from getting drunk.
For those of you listening, my eyebrow is raised so high it should be in like the top of my forehead at this point.
So from December 2007 to February 2008, the rate of suicides shot up, along with the proximity to one another. So the upcoming events, it just shot up, the suicide rate and the proximity to one another.
It's all in one area.
Yeah, like you're just getting closer and closer, and everyone just knows each other.
Okay, keep going. I'm getting really hooked.
This started with the suicide of 20-year-old Liam Clark,
okay,
who was close friends with Thomas Davies. I don't know if you remember that, but that was the second or third person.
He was the third one. He hung himself across from Dale.
Yeah.
Or I guess Dale's tree.
A month later.
Sorry, David's tree.
Yeah, there's a lot of names here.
There are a lot of names. There's 26 people.
Well, yeah, so far. We just skipped over 20 of them. But,
all right, keep going. So he was friends with Thomas Davies.
Yeah.
And he was found dead, right?
Yeah, no, Liam Clark killed himself. He was good friends with Thomas Davies.
Okay.
A month later, Nathaniel
Pritchard,
yeah, was rushed to the hospital. He attempted to asphyxiation after an argument he had with an ex-girlfriend on the phone, and he did it in his own bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
As Nathaniel lied dying, word got to his 20-year-old cousin, Kelly Stephenson, who was at a party.
Okay.
Kelly became so she became so emotional that she had to go upstairs to compose herself. Later in the night, her uncle forced his way into the bathroom to find her that she committed suicide by hanging.
Wow.
Kelly was the interesting thing about Kelly. She wanted to become a police officer, and her family and her friends would never have expected her to take her own life. Also, she was Liam Clark's ex-girlfriend.
Whoa. Okay. So Liam Clark, the 20-year-old who was close friends with Thomas Davies, who killed himself.
Yeah. Dated
Kelly,
who is
who
a
killed
cousin.
herself because her cousin tried to kill himself.
Yep.
Wow.
Not long after the discovery of Kelly's body, her cousin, Nathaniel, passed away from his complications due to the injuries at the hospital. He was 15 years old. Yes.
Okay, now I'm questioning the hospitals in Wales.
I question everything.
Well,
We'll get down to the questions at the end of this, but
I mean, at the end of the day, have you ever seen? There are multiple movies that people consider to be Robin Williams' last movie.
Oh, what the fuck?
We're getting back to him. Listen.
Yeah, The Death of Smoochie was his final film.
Technically, the Simon Pegg movie that he's in, he plays the voice of Simon Pegg's dog. It's called Absolutely Everything.
Yeah, that's when he gets the magical powers or whatever.
That was technically the last movie released with Robin Williams.
I think the dog kills himself in the movie too.
No, he doesn't.
Jumps out.
However, the movie that was most, acclaimed and came out right before Robin Williams killed himself was this movie called World's Greatest Dad. Now, World's Greatest Dad is a movie where Robin Williams, his son, is a piece of shit. Mm-hmm. His son, nobody likes him. He has one friend who barely puts up with him. And Robin Williams is a failing writer. And so his son takes a picture, like an upskirt picture of Robin Williams' girlfriend at dinner.
Wow.
And then goes upstairs and is doing some autoerotic asphyxiation while jerking off to the picture of Robin Williams' girlfriend and accidentally kills himself.
Pulled the real Dean Carradine. David Carradine.
Yeah, it's not Dean.
Not Dean, not yet.
No. But
there's a closet right next to us.
And then he, he's so distraught, and what he does is he actually takes his son's body and moves it to the closet, and then writes up a suicide note So no one had to know that his son died, basically being the piece of shit that he was.
Yeah.
And the whole movie is, him kind of dealing with people then being like, oh, I always loved your son. He was my favorite person. I wish I would have known him better. And, eventually he comes to this point where he's like, you all fucking hated my son. He's like, you guys are terrible. I thought I was bad, but you're awful. This is what that sounds like.
It could be, yeah.
Like the cousin could have just been trying to jerk off and, come to the sound of his ex-girlfriend. Accidentally, done some damage with a belt to his neck.
Yeah.
And then for some reason a hospital can't take care of a collapsed esophagus. Weird.
All right, moving on.
Okay, continue. Sorry about that sidetrack. So at this point,
the parents pleaded with authorities to find out some solution to this. What the hell's going on here, right?
Yeah, they should.
It's like this is something like out of Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah, the kids dying, the parents being like, I don't know what's going on, but I kind of know what's going on.
Yeah, exactly. Like, what the hell? Like, what sparked this madness?
Could this been of the man that we burned down the house back when we were teenagers?
There's speculation of that. I'd say Marilyn Manson. But,
okay.
In 2006, Marilyn Manson was he still? I don't even know.
He's still doing shit now.
Well, he's fat and gross now. In the defense of the authorities, though, they responded by putting together a joint task force comprised of the police, NHS, and social care.
Okay.
Right? Like that seems like a solution.
Sure. Task force sounds great.
Church leaders also, church leader and community groups also put stuff together, doing counseling sessions and public events.
Mm-hmm.
Their solution was taking potential youth at risk to the shore, to the coast, and get away from their shitty village.
Okay.
These kids hate it here. Let's take them to the coast.
Let's give them a vacation from life.
Have you been to the coast of England?
Yes. It's
not that much
dismal.
better. Yeah.
It is sad.
So
it reminds me of like the beach that the kids in Series of Unfortunate Events like to go to.
I never saw that movie.
It's a book series.
I never saw that book.
Never seen a book in my life.
What's a book?
What's that thing with fucking words printed on some crushed up, pulped up trees?
Why is England so gloomy? Like, what is it? Like, what this like
with the weather patterns? So
in general, like everything about England, like when I think of England, I think of like
it's constantly overcast.
Jack the Ripper, just like darkness, a man walking around with a cape.
Well, so like
murdering women.
That's what England used to be.
It still is. No way.
England for the last 30, 40 years has been technically the most watched nation in the world. There are cameras that are recording you everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
Basically,
that's
they're constantly observing the public to make sure nothing's happening.
Yeah.
And that's ever since the IRA bombings.
Right.
So
David Icke would say reptilians. So.
Yeah. He would say ginger reptilians from that other island came over to assert their dominance on the quote-unquote more powerful species of reptilians.
Well, I don't know if he'd say ginger, but he definitely would say Jew.
Yeah, the Jews didn't have much to do with that at all.
Yeah.
All right, continue. Let's get off the Jews. I don't like when we bash Jews.
Yeah, well,
I'm the only one who's allowed to bash Jews.
But I think you could gather from the length of this episode, and that by the length of this episode, that both of those options sadly failed.
Well, of course.
The death continued to rise, almost like they did nothing at all.
Wow.
Yeah. The next person to hang themselves was a 16-year-old girl, Jenna Perry. She was close friends with Zachary Barnes. I don't know if you remember that. She was found hanging from a tree near a beauty salon by a dog walker, very close to her home. Not sure why, but they noted that her knees were still touching the wet grass beneath her feet. So
okay, because that means that she
couldn't have hung herself.
She could not have hung herself from where she was hung.
So her feet were touching the ground. So you couldn't even like.
She had 2 feet.
Not her knees were touching the ground.
I know, that's what I'm saying. That's literally like 2 American feet. That's like 24 inches of leg that should be able to touch the ground. If your knees are on the ground,
yeah,
that means that you were put there.
Very interesting. This is when the shit really hit the fan, though. More so than the countless number of suicides that have already occurred. This is when the media started pouring in.
Of course.
And like I mentioned at the beginning, media, if you don't present it correctly,
can make it
only
worse.
make it much worse.
Oh yeah,
and that's
you can make
part of the
suicide the next Jay-Z.
Yeah. What would that be called? JS.
That's a terrible joke.
Shut up. Yeah, they only made things worse. Kids were being ambushed on the streets by these people, asking if it's a suicide cult, serial killer, all the crazy theories that I'll get to later, and it's just insane. People came from all over the world, from China, America, Europe.
They all want to know what the hell's going on.
Well, because they're just like blood in the water, like every media sensation. The town was called Death Town, Suicide Capital. There's some real crazy shit. Which we know is far from true.
Yeah.
Because if anything was going to get Death Town, it'd be San Francisco, Golden Gate Bridge.
Yep.
Or Suicide Capital. Come on. It's, oh, God.
How about the place that calls itself the fucking Suicide Forest?
No, it's called Ayokingahara Forest under Mount Fuji in Japan. Do you know how to say that word? Akogera? Aokigahara?
I'm gonna go with Aokigahara?
Okigahara?
Yeah, something like that.
Forest. A.K.A. Suicide Forest.
Suicide Forest, yeah.
Yeah.
That is definitely the suicide capital.
Yeah.
It's a place that people go to commit suicide. Like that's like saying that Disneyland is not the capital of amusement parks. You go to Disneyland to go to an amusement park. Same with Six Flags, you know?
Yeah, I love Six Flags. I've never been to Disney.
You wouldn't go to a Menards to go to a fucking, you know,
I think that's an apt
adventure park and rides and
26 young men died, and two young ladies. So
okay,
far.
Okay, and this is at this point.
Yeah, this is pretty much at this point. Yeah.
Okay.
The internet blew up with theories.
Oh, of course.
Some of them were like you were saying, vengeful, Celtic spirit.
I never said a vengeful Celtic spirit. I said it's a mass murderer.
Or some insane modern day druid cult. Always cults. Always
Yeah,
cults with these events.
People go straight to cults. They go to Satanists. They go to the people that are on the fringe of society. They'd be like, they're the ones doing it.
There is some credence to the cult idea.
Yeah, but for all we know, it could have been a goddamn pastor, the one who owned the church where two of them were found in front of. You know, we don't know these things.
Pile church, yeah, it could be. We'll get to that though. After this, we get into speculation. As you could expect, this didn't help any of the suicide rates.
Of course not.
It got so bad that the local member of parliament and the senior police officer ordered the news agencies to stop reporting on the deaths. They told them to stop reporting on the suicides.
Yeah.
And you know that's a red flag for anyone that's in like true crime or anything, that something is fishy. Like
what
it's
that
one
means
thing,
to me is that they're worried that someone has been tracking the news stories and is getting pleasure out of the fact that they're not being caught.
Okay, this is 2018, 2018 mentality.
It's 2019, motherfucker. Get with the times.
Oh my God, it is.
Yeah, it is.
That's crazy.
I know, right?
I'm pretty stupid. Same thing with the concept of just like hopefully this will all pass. Remember, after three deaths,
we'll hope this blows
they were
over.
hoping that the deaths would go away. Now we're like a year into it. There's 26 people dead. It hasn't blown over, and it's actually going to get much worse.
Okay, continue.
But we'll see how
they
this all.
Yeah. They forced the media to stop reporting.
Yeah, they forced the media to stop reporting. Like we talked about earlier, that there is a grain of truth here about glamorizing or normalizing committing suicide.
Mm-hmm.
There's always a way out.
There really is, and it doesn't have to be.
It doesn't have to be suicide. It doesn't have to be permanent.
Seriously, you don't have to go all Hitler and get a final solution. All right, there's more than one.
Over the summer of 2008, the village of Belus fell victim to a cluster of suicides.
Ooh.
You have to realize that this was happening all over this county. There was like a bunch of little villages. Like, I wasn't mentioning all the little villages.
No,
but
it's a county.
But yeah, it's a county of like all the people that have connections, all the people that are like brothers or cousins or girlfriends. They're all within walking distance of each other's village. And in this particular village, there's just a little cluster. In April, a 19-year-old Sean Reese was found hanging from a tree near his friend's house.
Okay.
Almost making me think that this is making me think about that meme episode from South Park where You remember that, like planking, like when planking goes deadly.
Yeah.
And it was like he was like Tom Bradying in front of a train, and the train came and killed him.
Yeah.
But this is real life.
It was T-bowing, by the way.
I don't remember. I'm really bad with sports analogies.
Yeah, no. T-bowing was taking the knee and praying to God, thanking him for all of your help. By the way, I just looked on a map. There's a major highway. So it's the M4 highway. That connects not only Bridgend, where it initially happened, it also connects to Pyle, where Pyle Church would be.
Yeah.
And it goes straight through where you were just talking about this. Yeah, it's actually Matthews, and it's a subsect of Newport, but it's all connected to the M4.
Yeah, isn't that interesting?
Yeah, continue, please. I'm very intrigued.
So like I was mentioning, his family were in shock and couldn't think of any reason why he'd take his own life.
Of course not.
He just passed his driver's license and was planning on going away to college. He was really excited.
So
he
had future plans, which means that he probably did not do it.
Well, sadly, he did die, though.
Of course, but
the next month in June, his friend Neil Owen was found dead near just mere feet from where his friend decided to take his own life by hanging in the tree.
Oh, my God.
Just 10 days later, on the night before Neil's funeral, their friend Carwin Jones was found by a construction worker. The boy's body was hanging behind the local pub.
Oh, wow.
See, in the course of 10 days,
they
3
hit
people.
What was effectively more than a decade's worth of death.
Just ramping up. But the most shocking one, I guess, considering the ages of the victim and everything, it shouldn't be that shocking of a story that I'm telling you, but this is definitely it stands out.
Mm-hmm.
Carwin was a loving father of a 2-year-old daughter, and once again, like I've mentioned so many times in this whole episode, no one could understand why someone like this would do this.
Mm-hmm.
But police investigation found that all 3 men were born and raised on the same street.
Oh, wow.
With the ban taking effect, the wider public lost interest in the story, and it just kind of dwelled away.
Yeah, as is the
Dwindled
news
away.
cycle.
Well, and we sadly don't know.
No, because it got buried, so no one's going to continue reporting on it.
Yeah.
Just like how in a past episode, I went digging during the episode about what happened to the butt stabber of Virginia.
Yeah.
And I can't find out if we ever got him back from when he escaped to goddamn Peru.
Listen.
Last news story that came out was that we were trying to extradite him. But once the news stops caring, it's really hard to find these things.
There's not a lot of updates
to
these stories. It was widely believed that the numbers of hangings fell back in line after 2009. But sadly, this isn't the reality of the situation.
Okay.
By the year 2012, just 3 years after the beginning of this, after the death of Dale Kroll, the death attributed to hanging and asphyxiation were 79 cases.
Oh, my God.
Roughly 23 people a year. Remember, the year prior to this, the decade prior to this, was 3 people a year.
That's insane.
Now, and like I said at the beginning, they only talk about up until 2010 on Wikipedia and everything. You have to dig down deep and find that this continued for 2 more years.
Mm-hmm.
Because they always say 26 people.
Yeah.
It's 79 people.
That's fucking insane.
Hanging. Not just, like, it doesn't even go into the suicides that weren't hanging. Like, cutting your wrists or anything like that.
Yeah.
It's insane, the 3 years that happened like this.
Now, I mean, I can guess a couple reasons as to why it would happen, right?
Yeah, well, the most regularly offered reason is that someone or some group was subliminally suggesting that these kids do this, as you were saying, or...
So they're pushing the idea of some kind of cult-like association brainwashing these kids into believing that suicide is the answer.
Yeah, and it has credence. Like, we've seen it in the Marilyn Manson cult. Like, this idea of like an older person giving you drug, because all these people were drinking at a young
Manson.
What'd I say?
Marilyn.
I think
Marilyn Manson has a big following.
I think I read it earlier.
He doesn't have a cult.
Yeah, Charles Manson. Well, he probably does.
He probably does.
The Charles Manson cult, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like this,
the Manson family.
Yeah, he drugged people. He like Tex. Well,
Charlie
didn't, but Tex.
But
yeah, like this concept of, because all these kids were drinking at a young age, doing drugs, getting high.
Yeah.
Like, all you need is just one crazy guy to just be like, hey, guys, how about, like, all it takes is an enigmatic person to like, rile up people.
No, I mean, you're right. It takes someone who is, and especially, the thing is that also, in the mid-2000s, right? Because
this is your life. You're the age
that's
of
exactly it. Yeah, I was the exact age of these people as they were killing themselves.
What were you thinking?
I mean, hell, I was fucking depressed out of my mind. But that was also due to, I was medically depressed. As a person, I've only been, like, as you would say, depressed, like medically depressed, by 2 times in my life.
Yeah.
The first time was around this exact period of time, but that was because I was on a medicine called Accutane, which gets rid of acne. It's like the most effective acne medicine possible. But the top 2 side effects are suicidal tendencies and it's suicidal thoughts and tendencies.
That's interesting. So no one's ever mentioned this. Like all the stuff I've read, no one ever said a chemical imbalance due to some type of medicine, or
and that's what
even something
was.
as simple as acne medicine.
Yeah, that's what mine was. It was simply the acne medicine brought me into this way of thinking because my chemicals were so imbalanced that
you putting it right in your head.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I would have killed myself. But I told one friend about it. She copy pasted the entire conversation we had to my mother. My mother got me off the fucking Accutane, and 4 weeks later, when it was out of my system, I felt happy. The only other time was when I was sent to Australia for 2 months.
Yeah, that'd be depressing.
To recruit people. So I had to try and sell them on a belief that they didn't know about or care about.
Yeah.
By myself. On the other side of the world from anyone I know. And I couldn't talk to anyone because the only times the only times I'd be able to reach out to someone in the U.S. would be right before I went to sleep or right as I woke up because of the time difference. It's a 16-hour difference.
Right.
So I got very depressed because I was working myself to the bone, feeling like no one's giving a shit and I have no support. But that cleared up as soon as I got back and quit my job. You know, it's like you just change that one thing that's been depressing you and you can fix it.
Because I wasn't whole life ahead of you.
Because I wasn't chemically imbalanced. There are people who do have actual chemical imbalances in their body that pushes them towards depression.
Yeah.
But to be fair, I mean, people my age, especially in the early 2000s, it was before this whole social media storm of like, I need to impress everyone else besides myself in my life.
Yeah, they mentioned that too.
Which makes a lot of kids nowadays who are that age very suicidal and very depressed because they feel that their worth and their merit is judged online.
Yeah, and it is.
Most people my age don't fully subscribe to that. While, they understand the impact that social media has and the power that it has, people my age don't subscribe to it as, if I'm not the best person in the world on this, I'm nothing. That's a very new concept because it's still a very new thing. I mean, when I was born, I was born before Google was started. You know, like I was 2 before Google was 1.
Wow.
I was 3 before Google was 1. You know.
Oh. And look at you now.
I know. I'm Googling like a pro. Hell, I'm Googling and I'm not even touching my phone. They're just listening to me.
So is that what you're thinking? That it was some type of possible chemical imbalance?
I think, well, because suicide pacts were huge at this point too.
Well, they're actually kind of dwindling off, but yeah, they were still a thing.
It was a big thing. They even talked about it in my high school about like suicide pacts because there were kids that were killing themselves.
Oh, suicide pacts. I thought you were talking about cults.
No, not cults.
Because cults were still like like suicide cults still existed until this point.
Oh yeah, but a suicide pact was a pretty popular thing, for lack of a better term, and it was effectively when like you and all your friends were like, all right, and we're all gonna kill ourselves together.
Sounds like an average teenager.
Yeah, right? Yeah. You're like, let's do something together. That's final.
Hey, Dean, you want to go, like, just go, like, end it?
Yeah, I mean, I got nothing going on. But,
you get off work yet?
I think that could be a thing. I think the chemical imbalances could probably be a thing, but very unlikely. My honest-to-goodness belief right now is that there was someone who was killing these kids.
Oh, like a serial killer or a cult leader?
No, a serial killer. I think it was one, if not a small group of people. I do not think it was a cult.
See, the only reason why I think it's a cult...
Well, cults would be more systematic about it. They would add some sort of significance to where they're placing the bodies. Or they would add some sort of significance to the bodies. Because a cult is not going to just ritually kill someone by hanging them and then do nothing.
That happened. Similar to it. There's a cult called the Order of the Solar Temple. That's probably the most hidden of suicide cults. They over the course of a few months, maybe even a few days, they killed over 100 members all over the world, mind you. This was in Canada, Sweden, all over Europe. I forget. There's like a dozen countries.
Sure.
And over the course of a few weeks, they all killed themselves by burning themselves alive.
Wow.
Nothing. They didn't. The missing notes, suicide notes, is the biggest thing that I think that it's some type of cult or maybe a serial killer. But still,
I would say the serial killer because lack of notes, because they don't want to get their handwriting out there, so it can't be matched to anything.
Yeah.
They placed the kids in the spots because you couldn't.
It does seem like a few of them were placed,
especially that girl in her backyard. She could not have hung herself.
Well, the kid with his
while being
t-shirt.
on her knees. Now, I'm an idiot at some points, and I didn't know until I was about 22 years old that the term kick the bucket literally meant to kill yourself instead of, I thought kicking the bucket just meant that you died.
Yeah.
But
is that
refers to...
Really? Oh, because of hanging.
Yeah, you're kicking the bucket out.
That's a fun little joke.
Yeah, but that's the thing, is that involved in the act of hanging someone, right, is a drop to snap the neck, and then the elongated, basically them just losing consciousness and losing life.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's why they call it the hangman's jig, when the person drops through the chute and they're kicking.
Yeah.
And it looks like they're kind of dancing. It's because you're still alive for a while after you get hung, or I guess hanged. After you get hanged, you don't immediately die. Even if it breaks your neck, you can break your neck and survive.
Yeah, which
what it really is
really
the fact
sucks.
that your body weight being hung specifically on your throat stops you from being able to breathe.
Yeah, you crush your esophagus.
Yeah, but you're also able to gasp through it. I mean, there's people who survive hangings. That's actually why the term
pipe.
Yeah, the term hanged to death was added.
Yeah,
because for the longest time that literally the punishment was public hanging.
Yeah, and
finally there was one person who was publicly hanged and did not die.
Yeah, I think that's the guy that swallowed the pipe or something.
No, he didn't swallow a pipe. They didn't tie the knot in the right spot. And so
that guy got fired.
Instead of putting the weight on his esophagus, it put it on his jaw.
Mm-hmm.
So he was just like getting held up by his head instead of by his neck.
And
so they changed the law to death by hanging to be hanged till death.
Yeah.
Because they were like, oh shit, this can't kill someone on the first try. Right. Well, we should really correct that. Otherwise, it's kind of like, yeah, put them in the guillotine, but if it doesn't cut their head all the way off, let them go home.
And by the way, invent that thing.
Yeah, right.
Get up to that. It's not
get that man down the block. I think his last name's Guillotine. He'll probably have some ideas. But so that's my guess that honestly it was probably one person, if not a small collective of people who knew these kids.
Yeah.
Who knew kind of where they would be.
Mm-hmm.
They if they all grew up and they all knew each other. Exactly. And so
3 of them were on the same block.
And so that person would not only be able to effectively move town to town through the M4.
Fair enough.
They also would be able to cover their tracks by making it kids who likely knew each other enough and leaving their bodies close enough together so that the police insinuate that there was something, like the police infer that there was something connecting them.
And there's just no cop willing to investigate because it's like, oh, we'll just wait until... Because for the first 3 people that committed suicide, the cops were just like, maybe we'll all just blow over.
It's a phase, yeah.
Yeah, like that's the way that serial killers get created. They just get away with it for so long.
And that's the issue, right?
And then you stop reporting on it, and no one can investigate it. And we don't... There was, like 50 people that we don't even know about.
Well, that and also the fact that the police at one point forced the media to stop reporting on it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Really pushes me to believe that they think it was someone.
Yeah.
Because there's really no reason, unless they were sure that the media attention was making it a more popular thing.
Well, this is also 2008, 2009. Like,
I know, but
we have evidence that if you introduce a news story and say, if you're feeling like this, here's a hotline, please call it. There's help out there for you. That they could just say, you know what? instead of reporting like, isn't it crazy all these kids are killing themselves? Say, this is actually a very serious topic.
Well, of course, but at the same time, to me, what that shows me is that they wanted to stop giving the person who was doing this the trophies of having those news clippings.
They did it 50 more times if that's your speculation, though.
And that's the thing, is that what it did was it pushed whoever was doing it to do it more,
it's
so they
crazy.
could be noticed.
It's hard to say what could possibly be it, but it did eventually stop, and the suicide rate dropped down to 2 people a year. So it's hard to say what could have possibly been the outcome. I still say it's a cult within this small community.
All right, here's my final guess.
Just like a H.P. Lovecraft style cult where everybody's in it and nobody wants to talk about it.
So like Hot Fuzz.
Right, fair enough. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's like Hot
for
Fuzz.
the greater good. Yeah,
For the greater good. The greater good.
yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Like a cult of these people just pushing agendas.
Here is my final hypothesis on this.
They won the garden every year.
Best garden.
The best fucking garden.
Actually, they're the best village.
Right, best village.
Now, here's my final thought, right?
That's the final truth.
I will, from what you've given me, because really before this episode, I didn't know anything about this.
Isn't that insane, though?
I've never heard
Within
anything
the
about
course of
this,
3
and that's
years?
insane.
That's what I was telling you about.
What I believe it was.
Aliens.
No. Here we go. Ready?
Reptilians.
60-year-old or late 50-year-old larger man who was a teacher at some point. Most likely at some certain point while gaining his credibility as a teacher and finding a school to work in, he met all of these kids. He stayed in the area and then got diagnosed with terminal cancer. In the 3 years that he was dying of terminal cancer, he wanted to correct the mistakes that he didn't feel he had the ability to as a teacher. And so he was snuffing out the students that he thought were going to be a blight on the world.
Right.
And that's why it stopped.
Drinking and drugs and having a good time.
Yeah, he thinks they're going to be a blight on society growing up.
Right.
And so he doesn't think that they have the ability to deserve the adult life.
Yeah.
And so he takes into his own hands, kills them with either strangulation or by asphyxiation with a belt or rope, and then hangs them in a place that he knows they'll be found eventually. And so,
what about Kelly?
Kelly in the bathroom?
Yeah.
Overreaction.
I don't know.
Because she killed herself before her cousin was dead.
Yeah.
So,
but it almost.
I would say drunken overreaction.
Well, she was
at a party,
but
she got
she was also at a party
overwhelmed.
with her uncle.
She was at her house. She was at a party at her house, and got overcome with emotion, while hammered, went into the bathroom, and strung herself up because she didn't want to live in the world without her cousin who she loved.
It is a weird
not knowing
aspect
that her cousin was going to be okay.
Well, he died.
Exactly.
But
at that point, she
knew.
didn't know that he was not dead.
Yeah.
That's my guess on that one. Every other one, I would say, is this one person, because he knew the kids. He knew where they would be. He knew where they liked to hang out. He knew which ones drank and partied. And he targeted them.
And it's kind of cocky.
And was very cocky.
Like
he would put them in the same place. He would put them in places that were unbelievable to be a hanging, to kind of push and test the police, saying, "Can you catch me?"
Yeah,
and
the
then
backyard
eventually,
with the t-shirt's the most ridiculous one.
And then I think eventually he died of whatever was killing him, and that's why it stopped. That's my guess.
I like this FBI.
That's my guess, man. It's my I've been watching a lot of Hannibal. I've been watching some Mindhunter.
And do they like make a whatever that is? Like, oh, he's a white male, 26 to 39 years old.
Well,
what is that called? Profile?
Yeah, profile. My guess about the profile would be a man, because men usually commit most violent crimes.
He was a woman.
Well, so here's the thing with the woman, right?
Right.
I would say yes. I would say it's a woman, except for the fact that it was all hangings, right? Everyone was hanged.
Yeah, that's hard.
And so you have to be a larger individual to not only overwhelm them with your strength, to not need to bind their hands or feet to do this. So he had to be a larger, stronger individual. So I'm guessing he's probably over 6 feet. He's probably over 250 pounds with enough strength that he could lift up a 15-year-old or 17-year-old kid by the neck with a rope.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Which, to be fair, that's like 130 to 175 pounds. That's not insanely heavy.
Well, I don't know. They are Europeans, so they definitely were skinny.
Yeah, and Welsh people have never had an issue with obesity.
Oh,
They're not like Scotland. Scotland at one point took over as the number 1 fattest country in the world.
nice.
And that's because they got deep fried Mars bars that became like the most popular thing possible. It's basically like a deep fried Milky Way bar.
I know what a Mars bar is.
Okay, good. But
I'm very cultured when it comes to eating junk food.
good. But so that's my final idea about this. I think that's what happened. Because it's just there's too many loose ends for it to not have been planned.
Yeah, I've heard stupid shit like people speculate that it was the cell phone towers because there's more cell phone towers in that area than any other area.
Yeah, but if it was cell phone towers, all the kids would have gotten fucking tumors behind their ear and died. Look at Joe Biden's son.
Well, we look at here in America now. Well, in Chicago, like you see, like there's 4G towers like every other block.
Yeah.
They're those giant fucking black things that you're just like, what is that?
Yeah, and you know what's terrifying and terrible about cell phones?
They cause cancer. There's a study that was.
Well, they
over
don't
the course
cause
of 10 years.
cancer.
They cause cancer in your brain.
They
No.
do not.
Yes, they do.
No, they do not. What
It
they
was
do
a 10-year
cause
study.
What they do cause is air bubbles between, basically in the lining between your brain and your skull, and in that blood-brain barrier, as it's called.
Blood. Say that 10 times fast.
Blood-brain barrier. I won't say it 10 times because you're gonna cut it.
I'm gonna make you say it.
Once what it does is it can create small air pockets and air bubbles inside of your blood-brain barrier, which then will be filled by other cells, which are trying to kind of diminish that area that has been created.
Yeah.
And a tumor will start growing. And now that's primarily going to be behind your ear because that's where the majority of the cell reception is going to, your ear when you're holding your fucking phone to your face. Yeah. And that's actually what they believe Joe Biden's son died from because he had a giant tumor that they found behind his ear, right where it would be for a cell phone. Of course he was. He was a politician's son. And he was a politician himself. Now,
see, Joe Biden's the real enemy here.
Now, the real issue is the cell phone companies because they know they have a different way of transmitting cellular signal. There's a different way. There's a different wavelength they could be using.
I remember those infomercials as a kid.
Well,
like a little magnet on top of your cell phone.
So they entirely know of a different wavelength they could use to transmit cellular data that is entirely non-harmful to humans. However, they use all of us like guinea pigs to figure out basically how dangerous is this for you. And right now we're at 4G.
Yeah.
5G is on its way.
Oh my God.
I was
6G after that.
No, 6G will be a long time. Because I was looking into it. I was reading some Tech Insider articles about 5G because they're saying that really when you get 5G, if you don't have unlimited data, you're not really going to be able to use 5G because it's such a high mass of data that you can receive at one point.
Yeah.
It'll tank whatever data you're using. But 5G and 4G and 3G are super fucking dangerous to the human brain.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and they know this. And they allow this because they need to know for the future how they can fix it. And so we are the experiment.
So next generation will be hey, everyone listening in the future, you're welcome.
Yeah, seriously. You're fucking welcome for us inventing those tools who talk on speakerphone all the time.
Yeah.
Hell, those are the guys who are going to live the longest. They're not putting the phone near their head.
Yeah, or people that just use earbuds. Just put earbuds on and talk in the thing.
Yeah, that could work too.
Yeah, I never have them. I only have my phone up to my head.
Yeah.
I used to sleep with it.
I used to, when I would drive for long periods of time, I used to keep my phone in my lap.
Mm-hmm.
I stopped doing that once I started thinking about it. I'm like,
that's your nuts right there.
Exactly.
Bro.
Like because I always like to think in the worst possible case scenario, what could go wrong, what could harm me. It's like, well, I'm putting this thing that I know creates
cancer.
It creates a space for tumors to grow. I'm putting it near my balls. Yeah, no thanks.
You have giant balls though.
Well, thanks. I didn't need the compliment today, but I'll take it.
I feel like that's a good place to end.
Well, everyone, thank you so much for joining us. Once again, honestly, I mean, this was a kind of heavy episode. I found it very intriguing, but at the end of the day, if you're really honestly feeling like you need to harm yourself in any way, please contact Suicide Prevention Hotline, 1-800-273-8255. Or you can just go online to suicidepreventionlifeline.org and chat with someone any time of day or night.
Yeah.
You can get help.
Yeah.
There's no reason to think that you're in this alone.
Yeah.
All right?
Don't make a permanent decision.
We're all struggling through this shithole together.
Yeah. We're not as bad as fucking
Norway. Wales.
Bridgend, but
we also don't have a serial killer.
Or cult. Hey, and to tell you also, don't harm yourself, but also don't join a cult.
Or do. They're fun.
Or durable.
They're a good time.